Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Apologies for the delayed start. Thanks so much for dialing in. My name is Zina Dave. I'm the Global Field Marketing Manager here at LaunchDarkly. It's my pleasure to introduce Edith Harbaugh, CEO and co-founder at LaunchDarkly. Edith, would you like to just introduce yourself quickly before we get started?
Yeah, hi, I'm Edith. As Zina said, I'm the CEO and co-founder of LaunchDarkly. I co-founded LaunchDarkly 6 years ago in 2014. We are the leading feature management platform, and we have over 1,000 customers all over the world. Before starting LaunchDarkly, I was an engineer, I was a product manager, and I was in marketing, and I worked at startups both small and big. So I'm really excited to answer your questions today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Edith. So thanks to everyone who submitted their questions in advance. We'll start going through some of those, and then we'll be sure to leave time at the end for any questions that pop up during this webcast. So feel free to submit any questions that you come up with in the questions box, and we'll get through as many of those as we can. Also, this session will be recorded and will be available to review in the next week or so, just as a heads up. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So first question, why did you start a company and LaunchDarkly in particular?
Yeah, so I got an engineering degree, and I always wanted to create things. So I was an engineer making deployment software in the 2000s. Then I was at TripIt making a wonderful mobile app that was the #1 travel app at the time. But I kept seeing the same problem over and over in software, which was that releases were very hard. How to get the stuff, how to not only how to build something, but how to get features to the right person at the right time. And I saw a lot of issues with not just push and pray releases, where it was kind of, I built everything and now let's hope it works, but also it works. How do I deliver it to the right subsegments? So from that, my co-founder John and I started LaunchDarkly. It has been incredibly fun. I say the best part of my job is that I get to talk to customers all over the world who are using LaunchDarkly to build better experiences.
Awesome. So our next question is, can you share a few of your top learnings from starting a company?
Top learnings. The first hardest thing to do is just to start it. You know, the early days of LaunchDarkly were very hard. We were creating a new category of feature management, and it was something that many people weren't very familiar with. So we had this double hurdle of, hey, can you build something, which John, my co-founder, could, but educating the market on why they wanted it and why it was useful. So I think an early stage startup is a continual process of trying to build something that people want, and then also letting people know how they can use that thing or feature or product to make their own customers or developers' lives better.
Absolutely. So next, how do feature flags fit in with offices going all remote? I'm sure we can all relate to this one.
That's a great question. Well, so first to back up, feature flagging is a really simple yet powerful technique. A feature flag is a wrapper and a part of functionality so that when a developer releases a feature, it doesn't have to go out to everybody. So a developer can, for example, choose to have it just go out to other developers in their company for some basic testing or more sophisticated testing. They can have it go out to QA for them to run through a full system. And then they can start to push it out to different beta users. And then a really powerful thing is then to get into different segments. For example, you could push a new feature out to only people in Ohio, but not in Michigan, for example, or vice versa. I know you went to Michigan, Zina. So whichever feature works. So these are use cases that are even more important now when everybody is remote. When you're coordinating a release between people who are distributed, you can't always rely on talking about everything beforehand. You know, you can try to coordinate, you can write test cases, but when you push a feature out, there's nothing like actually seeing it in use to really be able to get real data. And also, conversely, if something is going wrong, it's more important than ever to have a kill switch, an ability to stop a feature very quickly. If everybody is remote and distributed, you want to have one person be able to just, with one click, stop a malperforming feature in microseconds so that you're containing the blast radius and stopping it from performing badly. Another final use case that's really important right now is shedding load. A lot of systems all over the world are getting load that they have never gotten before. With feature flags, you can turn up and turn down functionality to kind of match the load that you're seeing. So that's how we're helping in a more remote world.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's super powerful, especially right now. All right. So has LaunchDarkly seen any unusual traffic spikes related to everyone going remote?
So LaunchDarkly sees sees huge traffic already. We already were seeing 1 billion feature flags a day. So that's 1 billion with a B. And we thought that was a lot. Over the last couple of years, we've gone up to 1 trillion, and that's trillion with a T a day. So what we're seeing is a big shift to people consuming more content online. We have a lot of streaming services for entertainment who use us heavily, and they're using us for their own functionality with more people being online.
Awesome. How recession-proof do you think developer tools are, and LaunchDarkly in particular?
Well, I wish we weren't in a recession. I'd say I have been working in 2 separate recessions, in the dot-com bust of 2000 and the financial crisis of 2008. What I think is different about developer tools is that people always need to build useful software experiences. And I think with the shift to being more online, that's more important than ever. A bank can no longer rely on somebody being able to go to a teller. They need to build in better infrastructure for people to bank online. You can't rely also on being together in one room and being able to talk about things in person. You have to have tools where people can communicate remotely in a distributed fashion. So I think developer tools are needed more than ever. I think also companies will continue to focus on how can we be the best at our core business and free up our developers from infrastructure tasks that a vendor could build for them.
Absolutely. So this is a question from a customer. We like LaunchDarkly, and it is really easy to use. We are depending on it in our continuous delivery to roll out the features gradually, but the code is now full of LaunchDarkly flags. Is there any best practice or recommendation for LaunchDarkly flag cleanup?
Yes, we have written an entire book on this. We have long tutorials. My best advice is, I think you're already ahead of the game by realizing that you don't want all these flags there. Once they're done, they should get removed. I wrote an article for InfoQ about this about 4 years ago because there was a misperception that feature flags were dangerous and technical debt. They're technical debt if you don't take them seriously and clean them up. So that's why LaunchDarkly calls itself a management platform. So features that LaunchDarkly itself provides are, number one, when you set up a feature flag, we let you set it as permanent or temporary. So the permanent flag is one that you would want long-term, for example, to say people in Michigan always see this feature and people in Ohio don't. For example, if you're a health insurance company and you have different regulations. A temporary flag is something where it is a feature that you are rolling out, and once it's done being rolled out, you just want it to go to everybody. So number one, just be aware of what the flag is. Two, comment to your flag well. So LaunchDarkly has a comment field where you can say what the flag is for. Use it. It's really confusing if, 3 months later you're looking at your dashboard of flags and one of them says like personalization feature 7. Like, I don't know what that is, and you probably don't either. So comment out, fill out the comment field about what the feature flag is for. Third, every flag in LaunchDarkly has an owner. The owner should be the one who's ultimately in charge of making sure that it is removed. We give you a handy feature called code references, where you can look up all the places that the flag is used in your code, and therefore be able to cleanly remove it. We also give you the status of the flag. If the flag is on for 100% of people, it's usually safe to assume that you can remove it. Same if 0% has seen it. That's a flag that also is time to remove. The final thing that's just outside of LaunchDarkly is just to make it an explicit part of your code lifecycle. Atlassian calls this phase tidying. I've heard other names like cleanup, but just have an explicit time of if this flag has been out for whatever time is appropriate for you, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, do an audit and remove flags that are no longer needed to be there. I compare it to, since we're all home, I compare it to doing your dishes. It's a lot easier if you do your dishes every day than once a week. And also probably ultimately a lot better for you too.
Yeah, that is very true. That's a great analogy. Really like that one. All right. So from LaunchDarkly's point of view, what is the difference between permanent flags and temporary flags?
Yeah, I touched on that in my prior question. To us, it's just a way for us to let customers label something. I really encourage you in your development process to think about it, whether this truly is permanent or temporary. A trap I've seen people fall into is saying, hey, it's really useful to have all this instrumentation. Let's just keep everything in. This makes it pretty complex. If you have flags for everything, you're just adding up a lot of different combinations of things that might have a weird edge case. I, as a product manager, also fell into this trap of, well, maybe some people like it this way and some people like it this way. So let's keep this to both variations, and maybe a fourth one too, because they might like that too. Sometimes you just have to really be straight with functionality and just say, hey, this is something that nobody's going to use ever again. Let's just cleanly sunset it. Or this is a feature which I call it the highest paid person, the hippo, wanted, and it turns out that nobody's really using it in production. Let's safely and cleanly remove it. But again, that's outside of LaunchDarkly. We just give you the labels. It's up to a customer to enforce, how they're using them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is actually from another customer. I listened to your podcast, To Be Continuous, which, side note, is an awesome podcast. And you have mentioned the importance of great marketing. What types of marketing have worked particularly well for LaunchDarkly and which have not worked?
Well, first, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I do a podcast with Paul Bigger, the founder of Circle CI, on continuous delivery, and it's very creatively called To Be Continuous. I think the first part is, I think marketing has historically had a terrible reputation for developers. Developers will say things like, I don't like the shiny marketing people, or I don't like slick marketing. And marketing should not be too slick. It should not be too shiny. Marketing is just telling people about stuff. And let me break that down. When I was a young engineer, I would say, well, I built this great product. People should just go find out how great it is. But it doesn't really work that way. Or why don't they read the release notes? That's really clear. Any developer will tell you how often they get excited about downloading something and reading the release notes of every new product. That's not how it works. So great marketing is meeting people where they are and providing them with content and context of why something might be useful to them. So I appreciate that you liked the podcast. I would say that that is marketing for the company. I think good marketing is, I think a lot of people are doing ebooks right now, and I'll plug, we did one with O'Reilly for feature management, where it is not trying to convince you to do something. It's more about education about why you might want to do something. So great question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. Can you share anything, or if you'd like, a few things coming up on the LaunchDarkly product roadmap?
Yes, I will say that we're going to do a follow-on podcast. Sorry, not podcast. We're going to do a follow-on webinar in a few weeks just on product roadmap, and I really encourage you to attend that one because it's going to be awesome. We have some very exciting features coming up. I will briefly talk about our positioning of them. So our mission is really software powers the world. LaunchDarkly powers all teams to deliver and control their software. And to break that down, I think people originally had a perception that LaunchDarkly was just for SaaS companies or just for mobile. What has really surprised me is that we have customers all over the world in really interesting industries. We have customers that use us in Roku set boxes. We have car manufacturers that use us when they're in the cars. We have SDKs for over a dozen languages, including Haskell. So LaunchDarkly is incredibly pervasive. The second part of that is LaunchDarkly powers all teams. So we power not just a developer, but a product marketer, a salesperson, and customer success to deliver the right software to the right person at the right time. So my co-founder, John, is going to give a great preview of some of our roadmap features in the next webinar. So I will leave on that cliffhanger.
Wonderful. All right. So that is it for our pre-collected questions. Thank you again for those who submitted. We have received some live questions throughout this time. So Edith, if you are open and willing, we can go through a few of these.
What's an ask me anything without the anything?
That is true. Cool. So first question. I'm guessing that this time has given you more time and space in one spot than the normal CEO schedule. I'm curious what you're doing with it.
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of my time has traditionally been away. A typical schedule for me is to give one or maybe two talks a month, and also visit customers all over the world. In December, for example, I was in Finland and then I was in Australia, and I gave talks in Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. So being at one spot, and I live in Oakland, has given me time to really concentrate more on the team, to be honest. Our focus for the past month has been making sure that the team is comfortable, safe, supported, to continue to support our own customers. We work at a pretty large scale. We know we have customers who rely on us for several nines of reliability, and we need to be able to continue to support them. And I am happy that we are. Our usage of LaunchDarkly has only grown in this past couple of weeks, and I'm glad that we are in a position to continue to power our customers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as a LaunchDarkly employee, I can definitely vouch for all the work everyone's been doing to keep us, feeling healthy, safe, and supported during this time. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question, this is, I think, probably inspired by you discussing a bit on the product roadmap. What plans do you have for expanding the features and insights offered with the results of experiments?
That's a great question for John. I'd like to leave a couple questions for him to answer. John's my co-founder, CTO, and he's having a product roadmap specific webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that is scheduled for May 14th. Don't quote me on that, but we'll be sending out more information on that. So we can table that question. And the person who submitted this, I will include this for the next webinar for sure. Thank you so much. So this is an interesting one. What is the worst business advice you've ever received?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll gently tease my friend Dan Shapiro. So Dan is I went to Harvey Mudd College, and Dan is somebody I look up to very much. He is founded several companies. He had the most successful Kickstarter ever for Robot Turtles, a board game. And now he is the CEO and co-founder of Glowforge, which is actually right now making ear guards for masks. So brilliant guy. He wrote a great book called Hot Seat CEO, which I enjoyed very much. So all that aside, he did once give me some terrible advice. I was thinking about starting LaunchDarkly, and I remember I talked to him in Seattle for advice, and I was thinking about raising money for the company, getting funding in so that we could afford to hire our first engineers. And his advice to me was, if you ask for money, you'll get advice, like if you're talking to a VC or investor. And if you ask for advice, you'll get money. So I followed this for about 6 weeks, and I was like, nobody is giving me money. I'm getting a lot of advice, but no money. and then my mentor from TripIt asked me, he's like, Edith, do you actually want money? Because you just keep asking for advice, and we would, be your angels and early investors if you said you wanted money. So after that, I got much better at asking our early angels, not only for advice, which I appreciated very much, but also for them to be our early backers. So thank you, Dan, for all your other great advice. And that is the one that I will critique.
That's a great answer. All right, so another question. This is great. We've got so many coming through. Thank you all. What other companies aside from LaunchDarkly do you look up to? Doesn't necessarily have to be DevOps, but just any other companies that you'd like to kind of call out.
Yeah, I actually really look up to Microsoft. We have a strong relationship with Microsoft as a partner, and I did some podcasts at Microsoft Build, their developer conference, where I interviewed various people. And Microsoft has an amazing culture. They've really invested people. They really invest in customers. I think, particularly in the Bay Area, I think people have this vision of Microsoft that is not the new Microsoft. Another company I very much admire is Concur. So I was at TripIt, which was acquired by Concur. And I worked at Concur for 2 more years post-acquisition. And Concur very much invested in the team and the people. I remember I was a director then, and they sent me to speech training on public speaking. And it wasn't positioned as you're a bad public speaker, so to be frank, I was. It was positioned as, we want to help you. Like, we want to help you grow. And it really stuck with me that we were doing this training on being better public speakers. And our teacher said that she had done the same training with Steve Singh, the CEO, every quarter, because he wanted to get better. He thought no matter how good he was at public speaking, he wanted to continue to do a good job. He saw it as part of his role. So Concur's culture of investing in their people really stuck with me. One of the things LaunchDarkly has is we have $2,500 education credit for everybody at the company. And I love seeing how people use this. One of our BDRs, business development reps, he went to the same management training that I had gone to. I was like, this is cool. We're providing people the training that they want. Another note on Concur is a lot of CEOs have come out of there, including the CEO of Talon.D and Brian Torrey. I think that it created this culture of great leaders.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right. So another great question. It feels like what LaunchDarkly does is even more beneficial in times like this, where innovation must be delivered even more quickly and quality cannot suffer. Are you seeing an uptick in inquiries?
I did not write this question, by the way.
Yeah. I can vouch for that. You did not.
So the question is, LaunchDarkly seems more important than ever. How is business? Yes, business has been really good. Again, our customers really rely on us for their own innovation and reliability, and they see us as more important than ever. And that makes me personally very happy. As an engineer, you want to see the thing that you built being used worldwide for important purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, it looks like we've got one last question. If anyone who's on wants to submit any more, please feel free to do so now. But the last one that we've got is, what do you think most SaaS companies get wrong about selling to technical buyers?
Sorry, what do you think? What do you think about what most?
What do you think most SaaS or software as a service companies?
SaaS. Sorry.
Yeah. Get wrong about selling to technical buyers?
Oh gosh, I could talk about mistakes that LaunchDarkly made. I think in the early days, we assumed that we would be a self-serve product. We had built this great product. You didn't need to talk to a salesperson. You didn't need to talk to a consultant. Like, we are API driven. You can literally sign up on our website. We have a free trial, and you can get going absolutely on your own. So what surprised me is that our customers actually did want salespeople. And they didn't say that they wanted salespeople, but they did. So we would get a lot of requests such as, I really am interested in your product. Can somebody come to my company and give me a demo with some slides and help us understand how to use the product, but not a salesperson? I'm like, but that's what a salesperson does. They go to your company with some slides and help you understand how to use the product.
Right.
So I think people misunderstand that just because somebody can use it on their own, that sometimes they need, the rest of the organization needs help seeing the value of the product and seeing how it fits into their own workflows. I think we definitely have that with LaunchDarkly, where our customers understand how to use the product, but they want help in understanding how best to use it. And I've learned that the hard way of, as an engineer, I would say, this is the early days. Well, customers will use this however they want. I don't want to dictate to them how to use it. And now some of our long-term customers have come back and said, wow, we really wish you had given us more patterns and best practices. You are the expert in the field. You have thousands of customers. We wish that you had been more prescriptive and told us the right way to do some things. So that's definitely changed the LaunchDarkly culture. Now we have a customer success team who will, help customers understand the best way to do it. And instead of in the early days being like, whatever way you want to do it is fine. Now it's like, okay, no, actually we do know a lot of patterns. That's very helpful if you do it upfront in a certain way. So to tie back to how this fits into tech and SaaS, software as a service, even if your product is completely able to be used by a customer without them interacting with your company, there's a lot of value they see in having an opportunity to interact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people can definitely easily misunderstand, what a sales rep really is and why they're there. And I think LaunchDarkly in particular has done a great job with training sales reps to be more, consultative rather than, sales, traditional salespeople, if you will. So.
Yeah, but I am really happy. We get we've gotten some very large customers, and they send me as a CEO a thank you note, which is not standard.
Yeah.
I went on a trip to New Zealand with one of our representatives, and the customer had a present for our salesperson.
I remember this story actually.
Yeah, we were in New Zealand, and they were having their own all hands. It was an e-commerce customer. They were having their all hands, and they had us come, and everybody applauded and said, "Hey, thank you. We're so happy for LaunchDarkly." And I was like, "Wow, this is great. You know, this is not the perception of salespeople that I think people are used to. I think salespeople are viewed as, you know, somebody very transactional sometimes instead of somebody who's a long-term partner."
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd agree with that. Oh, and you know what? It looks like one more came through. So sounds like this might be from someone potentially looking at the product or who has, you know, curiosity. But from an architecture perspective, would you mind explaining some of the advantages of LaunchDarkly versus some other alternatives?
Yeah. So at a super high level, LaunchDarkly is extremely stable, robust, and can support pretty much any situation. So we have SDKs for every major language and more esoteric ones. And that's backed up by our ability to serve millions, billions, and trillions of transactions extremely reliably and robustly. So that at an architectural level, I think we are the best platform out there. Beyond that, we really understand developer workflows in a way that I think it's hard to unless you've been doing it for 6 years like we have. So I read our Net Promoter Score surveys, and our Net Promoter Score is, you know, in the 40s usually, which is extremely high. And people talk about how easy it is to use and how it really makes our users' life better because it's, I love the phrase, deceptively simple. It gets it gets what needs to get done in a very elegant way. So again, I'll again give a plug to my co-founder, John. He's doing another webinar next month, and he can certainly talk a lot more about architecture.
Perfect. All right. Well, looks like that is all of our questions. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one. There's one more. Where do you see LaunchDarkly in 5 years?
I think that LaunchDarkly is just at its very beginning of its journey. We have around 1,000 customers worldwide. I think that pretty much anybody who is writing software could and should be using LaunchDarkly to make their own life better. And when I say writing software, I don't just mean the person who is the developer writing the physical code. I also mean the product manager who's deciding what features to build, marketing who is deciding how to get it to market, and then even sales who is helping customers on how to understand it. So I think that there is a huge potential for LaunchDarkly to continue to help people all over. And again, I go back to our mission, which is software powers the world. Software is far more pervasive than anybody realizes, I think, in terms of how many interactions are depending on it. And LaunchDarkly really wants to empower all teams to help deliver and control that software.
Awesome. Well, that is a beautiful way to wrap this up. Thank you so much again, Edith, for taking the time to do this Ask Me Anything session. It's been fantastic. If anything else you want to add before we jump off?
If you are a customer, thank you for being a customer. I truly appreciate your business and I hope that you're doing well. And thank you, Zena, for your help in putting this together.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for joining us today. This is the first of a series of these Ask Me Anything sessions. We'll be looking to bring different folks in, so definitely stay tuned for our next session. And if anyone has any questions that they didn't get to today or didn't feel comfortable asking, you can always reach us at launchdarkly.com. And with that, I will let you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much again. All right, take care.